Welcome back to the Transformers, the creation of $1 billion brand. In the last episode, we were just about to talk about the casting of the voice actors and how all of that came about. And Jay Bacal, who brought Wally Burr over from their last venture together, to help find the various voice actors to go along with the characters from the Transformers animated series. And they had great success, of course, with the G.I. Joe miniseries and then the animated series that followed. And some of those actors who were in the G.I. Joe animated series voice actors that is, would carry over to the Transformers episodes and also would give life to these characters that were given to them by the Hasbro people and certainly by Marvel Comics and Bob Budiansky. Now, the first of these actors, voice actors, that was of importance was Peter Cullen. Peter Cullen had a great range of voiceover jobs in Hollywood and had done several of the early Marvel productions. One of the things, and playing primary characters as well, but one of the primary characters that he played, which a lot of people don't know, but something that people of my generation certainly remember, is in the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon series, which started before the Transformers. He played the role of the villain, Venger. And he wasn't so much prominent in the G.I. Joe. I don't think he even played one of the voiceover or did a voiceover of any of the characters to my remembrance. But what he did do, and what he is known for in terms of the pop culture, is for playing the role of Optimus Prime. And Optimus Prime was, of course, the central, or one of the central characters of the show. And Wally Burr, as many of the voice actors remember, really put Peter Cullen through the ringer, getting the emotion right, because for Wally Burr, his thing was that the actors should not just do deadpan things just because it was a cartoon series, that you had to have and make the audience not only invested in the character, but also be at that emotional, or at least have the audience feel the emotional peak. And sometimes Wally Burr, let me go to another page, sometimes Wally Burr, in the dialogue, would make his own Wally Burr would make his own soliloquies for the characters that didn't necessarily wind up in the cartoon episode itself, but at least help the actor to flesh out the various emotions. So Peter Cullen did, I'll write his name down again, did two prominent characters. As I said, Optimus Prime and Ironhide. And he was able to do a range, go back and forth. And as I said, from playing a villain in one of the popular animated series, and the thing about Dungeons and Dragons that was popular at that time was it started to attract teenagers because that was a very interesting show for that time, where you had young people as the lead heroes, and you did not have adult figures in the hero role. You just had, which was another character from another show, but you just had Dungeon Master as a mentor, and the protagonists were all teenage, anywhere from, I think, 17 all the way down to 10 and 9. So you had this cartoon series that had young people squarely at the center. But nevertheless, getting back to the Transformers, he was able to play this dynamic role, this role that, quite frankly, enshrines him into the pop culture. The next voice actor, of course, that was of equal importance, I would go so far as to say, was Frank Welker. Frank Welker, too, had a career, I would say, not so much a great career, but certainly a well-known career. Because before the Transformers, he played very famously Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo cartoon series, animated series during the 70s, but primarily, which I found very interesting, he was a stand-up comedian. And just like the guy from Police Academy, the black guy from Police Academy, he could do all of these voices and sound effects. And that's what made him a very popular voiceover actor. And the way he tells this story, he came in, Marvel and Sunbow put out a casting call, and he came in, and they had all of these characters lying on the table, and they said, well, which characters would you think you could voice and would like to play? And he grabbed, as he said himself, Megatron, Soundwave, Rumble, Frenzy, some other characters enmeshed in there, but those were the prominent characters. And he gave voice to, as I said, Megatron, Soundwave, Rumble, Frenzy. These were the cassette tapes, or the mini robots that turned into cassettes that were housed in Soundwave's cassette frame, because he turned into a Walkman. But nevertheless, Frank Welker gave voice to these characters, and the way that he was able to manipulate his voice to get the sound wave effect, see, that was all part of the ambiance and the gift that he does have, as many of the voice actors who worked on the Transformers will attest to, the gift that he does have for using and modulating and manipulating his voice to do all of these characters and effects that normal people just cannot do, even if they tried. And then you had other character or voice actors. Another one that was prominent. Let me see if I can turn this page here. And really gave life to this character, but also gave life to Cobra Commander on the G.I. Joe series, was a man by the name of Christopher Latta. Now, this was a stage name. I think his real name was Christopher Collins. But what he was able to do with the Starscream character using basically the same voice that he used in terms of Cobra Commander on the G.I. Joe series. But this high-pitched voice, but the gratingness, but the emotion that was in that voice and what that gave to that character was unbelievable and was magic in terms of the cartoon series. And he really did, as the voice actors say, who were in the studio with him, he really gave life to that character and brought all kinds of emotions to that character. Then there was somebody who was not necessarily a voice actor. He did voice acting to pay the bills, but he was an all-around entertainer, and that was Scatman. Let's see if I'm going to spell this right. Carruthers. I think it's this way. Carruthers. Scatman Carruthers, who was an all-round entertainer. And he did the voice of Jazz. And they, the voice actors tell funny stories about him. He did various voiceovers, but was an all-around entertainer. Famously was in The Shining. He played the caretaker of the hotel in The Shining. And he really didn't understand what was really going on in terms of this cartoon. And the voice actors, because they could do it better, there's a great talk with some of the voice actors on YouTube that you can pull up, and they tell how Scatman Carruthers was very confused about what this cartoon series actually was. And he said, wait a minute, this is about a bunch of machines that transform into robots, and they talk to human beings, and all he did was his lines, and that was it. But nevertheless, did a great job in terms of bringing to life a beloved character that was Jazz. Casey Kasem, who, much like I remember how to spell his name. Casey Kasem, who was much like Dick Clark, but not to be confused with Dick Clark, but much like Dick Clark in terms of he was in the radio business and was a disc jockey who moonlighted as did voiceover acting. Casey Kasem no, Casey Kasem did Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and Frank Welker did Fred from Scooby-Doo. Excuse my mixing it up. But Frank Welker did Fred from Scooby-Doo, and he did Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. So that was his famous foray into animated television for children. And so you had these veterans who brought to life these characters on the Transformers. And when we come back in the next episode, I'm going to primarily discuss the pilot mini-series called More Than Meets the Eye.